All right. So we're recording now. I'm unable to see your screen yet.
Yep.
There you go. Awesome.
Cool. All right. You see that pricing is tough. We fixed that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Let me know just when you want me to start.
Go ahead, man. Fire it
Go
up.
ahead. All right. Well, Alex, I appreciate you having me. I'm excited to talk about Beyond Pricing and how we can help users in the Latin American markets. We have quite a few customers there already. So I'm happy to show you what we have been doing with them, the success we have been having, and as well talk about how we can improve with more people in the area as well. So I wanted to start by talking about dynamic pricing as a whole and kind of what that is like, how that began, how we began as a company. So dynamic pricing as a tool is not new. It's something that the airlines have done for decades. It's now used by everything from sports tickets for your big game events, big game concerts and stuff like that, and then all the way to Uber or anything like that with their surge pricing. Dynamic pricing is pretty much everywhere you look. So it was a matter of time before it came to the vacation rental industry. And our CEO, Ian, actually used to write dynamic pricing code for the airline industry, found this little niche in the vacation rental industry, and has applied the same algorithms and tactics that airlines have used to vacation rentals.
That's really interesting that you mentioned your CEO's background, because I've noticed that a lot of the competition don't come from the same industry at all, or not even anything related to the industry whatsoever.
Totally. Yeah. So, the different people have different backgrounds, and they've kind of found that within the vacation rental industry, revenue management is kind of the hot topic as of late and kind of the trendy thing that people are looking at and looking into right now. But we've been doing this back since 2013. It used to be just integrated with Airbnb. Now we have integrations with all the major property management softwares, VRBO, stuff like that. So we've come a long way, and we're really proud of where we come from as well.
Well, it's very interesting that you mentioned that. It's obviously a very hot topic. Everybody wants to make more money, especially in the off season. And it's important that you give us this type of background so that we know about your CEO, the history behind you guys, and the collaboration that you've had with Airbnb, which is very unique.
Yes, yeah. We actually are probably located about less than a mile from the Airbnb headquarters in San Francisco is where our office is. So yeah, we're very close with those guys.
Communication flows very quickly.
Yes. Their office is a little bit nicer than ours, but we're getting there.
Okay.
But as far as where we are right now, so we're in about 7,000 cities across the world, and we launch each market individually. So what we're doing when we're launching each market is looking at the different trends for seasonality, different local events that happen, and how the vacation rental industry works there before just going live in any market. So we're in about 7,000 cities worldwide, pricing around 130,000 listings, and just passed the $1 billion in bookings price last year as well.
Nice. Those are some pretty strong numbers, pretty impressive numbers.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. As far as how Beyond Pricing works, what it is it's a software that you can use to set your rates and manage your rates, last minute discounts, gap filling, length of stay. There's a lot of different really powerful tools that you can do. And the way it works is you would actually set all of your prices right here in the Beyond Pricing software. And I'll show you how that works in a second here. But we push that directly to whatever channels or software you're using. So you would set your rate for $554 for this night. That would either push directly to Airbnb if that's what you're connected to, or it would push to whatever property management software you're using. This is just a few right here. If you have any channel managers that are connected to your property management software, it would push into those that are just connected to there and then out to those connected channels as well. Most of the smaller users just using Airbnb. If you're just getting started, that's totally fine. We can push directly to Airbnb. But if you are using one of these property management softwares, we can set that up in there too. And that can save you, loads of time setting rates daily, depending on how many properties you have.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very important that you mentioned that, because one of our key goals is to help users automate their operation. Obviously, by having you guys integrate completely with Airbnb, because otherwise it would be a waste of time. And as you mentioned, it's much more efficient to do it that way.
Yeah. So the number one thing that our software is all about is making you more money than you would have without using dynamic pricing, right? So our number one goal is to make sure that you are getting the most that you can for each booking every single night of the year, depending on the demand for that day. And I'll show you how that works in a second.
Okay.
But anything that's, time saving, not having to go in and manually adjust rates or discounts or anything like that, that's kind of what we call just the cherry on top. So
exactly.
That's kind of how it works as far as the integration side of things. And then now to get into the algorithm a little bit for how that works.
Awesome.
So there are about 1 billion data points that we are looking at whenever we're trying to figure out what price to set, going back historically, what price that day got, and how occupied that unit was for the last 6 years, and then forward looking as well. But it all pretty much boils down to the 3 main factors are day of week, seasonality, and local events that we're looking at. So day of week, obviously, you should be pricing your Tuesdays different from your Saturdays. There's lower demand, especially in an area like, say, Mexico City, where people are coming in for the weekend. They're coming in for, that event, that concert, that sporting event. You are leaving money on the table if you are pricing your entire week the same by either not pushing for occupancy and leaving your midweeks unbooked, or not going as high as you could have on the weekends as well.
That's right. Which is part of, because a lot of Airbnb hosts don't even have a pricing strategy at all. I mean, they don't even know, which is very important that you're touching on this, is, your Tuesdays are not as valuable as your Saturdays, obviously. So it's very important that your system is doing this automatically. So it's predicting this ups and downs based on supply and demand.
Exactly. So like I was saying before, there's more people coming in during the weekends, let's say for Christmas or something like that. More people are going to be coming in on the weekend than there are going to be showing up on Monday night. So, there's always going to be more people staying on certain periods. It's kind of knowing for your market when people are coming in. If you have a market like, say, Cabo or Puerto Vallarta, where people are coming in and staying a week or 2 weeks at some times, there's going to be less fluctuations in day of week pricing, but they are still different. So it's good to know for each market, and that's where we come in and we say, hey, for this market, even this neighborhood within this market, which I'll show you in a little bit, this is the demand changes that we're seeing for the day of week. So that is very important. Another thing that's really important as well is seasonality. So every market obviously has more favorable times of the year to be coming in. So, what our algorithm does is it looks at historically and forward looking. When are people coming and staying? Is it during the summer because the weather's nice? Is it in the winter because they're coming there because they want to go skiing? Stuff like that. That's going to factor into the year as a whole, if prices should be going up and down as well. Yep. And then the last thing here is local events. So any local event that's going on in the area, that's what our algorithm is going to pick up on automatically by seeing the increase in demand for the given weekend. So the algorithm doesn't necessarily know what is going on, but we can look for, say, New Year's, and we can see that a lot of people are trying to book and stay in this certain area on New Year's. Okay, there's probably some event going on there. And in this case, we know what it is. But if that's some event like a concert or a sporting event that you might not know about as a short-term rental manager, that you might not know about, you might take a low booking and leave money on the table because you don't know that this happened. And, you're going to let perhaps, 10% of your portfolio get booked up before you realize there's an event going on. So this is a proactive way to know what's going on in the area and have your rates adjust accordingly.
So this is how you would define in the industry as dynamic pricing?
Correct. So dynamic pricing, its dictionary definition would be selling the right item to the right person for the right price at the right time. So that's what we're trying to optimize as much as possible, given the demand that there is for, whatever day of the year for the property, and given its location and the supply in that area, we're going to look and find you the most optimal rate that your home can get booked at for what it's worth in the area.
And this is based out of the size of the unit itself, correct?
Not necessarily. So that was actually, you're getting a little ahead of me, Alex, but right here is what's called our base price. So within every neighborhood, within every market, there are going to be certain trends that we're following, right? So, like I was mentioning with my Puerto Vallarta and Cabo examples earlier. But what it comes down to in the core value of the home is your base price. So, you have your certain homes that maybe they haven't been renovated in a while. They have the old carpet and stuff like that. They don't have the best view. But then you go in and you renovate it, and you go in, you put in all new furniture and all new interior decorations and stuff like that. It's still going to follow those same seasonality trends. So the algorithm will still price it with the same seasonality trends, but now it's worth more. So that's what your base price that you set up in Beyond Pricing is. So it's, before we have it worth 50, now it's worth 300. And you can see it's following the same trends. It's still seeing that 20% increase for Christmas that we're seeing to match the demand in the area. But it's just going up 20% from 300 from 50, instead of from 50, how it was before.
I see. Okay. Makes sense.
And so what we do is we work with you to make sure that you have the best base price for all of your homes. And our team will go in and look at it with you and say, hey, this is what we think your home is valued at, all while never going below the price floors that you can also set, which are your minimum prices for each given day of the year as well.
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely. So it's important to know that you have a team supporting you, behind you, and obviously doing the market research for you. So they're always recommending or at least setting up the initial strategy so that the system, the algorithm can continue to work, identifying those ups and downs and the best possible price at which you can rent your unit. Correct.
And that's one of the biggest things that we do pride ourselves on is the support that we provide here. We have a really good team of experts with the new funding that we just raised recently.
How much was it?
It's $42.5 million US dollars. And that was actually just a couple months ago. So since then, we've been able to bring a lot more support team members on board to make sure that every single user of Beyond Pricing is always there, always has someone looking out for them. And if anything goes wrong, the pricing is one of the core elements of the vacation rental business. So we know that even if it's not a problem that we caused, we're going to be there to help you get through it and get to the bottom of it with you. Right.
Now, it's important to know that it's important that you guys are making your customers feel special, and it's important that you mentioned that you got an extra set of funding for because it always helps to have an extra set of hands helping you out, obviously, especially when it comes to customer service. Super important, in my opinion.
Yeah, quite a bit. Yes, you're correct in that. And then the last thing here, I won't really touch too much on it today because I was just going to go through an example.
Yep.
But I did want to show that that cherry on top that we talked about earlier, the time saving. So these are things that within Airbnb or most property management softwares, you have to do manually as of right now. So gap filling is one thing. It's a newer term within the vacation rentals, but for example, if you had a 7-night stay and a 7-night stay and 5 nights in the middle, what you would have to do is you would have to go and create a new rate rule or a new season in whatever software you're using.
Exactly.
And say, now I will have to put in between these two stays a 5-night stay, even though I normally have a 7-night minimum. And you have to, and as you grow your business and as you grow your portfolio, it's going to be harder to catch on to those gaps and making sure that you're filling every single one. One of the things that we do that's a huge time saver for a lot of our clients is automated gap filling. So you can say anytime that I have a 3-night stay and a 3-night stay and 2 nights in the middle, automatically fill that gap at a discount to just get someone in there and not have it sitting vacant. Or conversely, you can also have it say, and I have a 3-night and a 3-night and a 2-night in the middle. Well, I'm letting someone stay 2 nights where I normally let them stay 3.
Now,
let me put a premium on that. Yeah, go
exactly.
ahead.
Now, let me ask you something. Let's say that we're looking at the month of October now, and it's what day is today? The 8th. I already have the first week booked and the 4th week of October. How far in the future does the system start filling these gaps with suggested rates?
So it's whenever it goes below your minimum night stay requirement. So if you have, a week booked and a week booked at the last week of the month, and those 2 weeks in the middle are still sitting vacant, we wouldn't change anything there unless you wanted to do some kind of last minute discount, which is what I was going to get to. But if, say, you had another 7-night stay that ended up halfway through the 3rd week and you had 3 or 4 nights that were sitting vacant, you would automatically adjust. And I know that's a big thing in Airbnb because I think they only allow you to have 1 minimum night stay requirement. So
that's correct.
By using Beyond Pricing, you can kind of surpass or go over that requirement that they have. And then that was the other thing I touched on as well with automated last minute discounting. So you can set it up any kind of rule that you wanted. But this is just an example right here of if it's 7 days before the stay, drop my price 10% automatically. And if it's 3 days before the stay, drop it 25% automatically. And you can set this up to never go below the minimum price that you have set for your unit, of course. But it's an easy way to make sure that as a stay date approaches that you're trying to get booked, that we're making sure that we're at least getting someone in there without obviously going below that min where it's unprofitable for you.
That's yield revenue management right there at its best.
Yeah, like I said, just take the technology from what the hotels have been doing. Obviously, it's different with vacation rentals in that vacation rentals, not every unit is the same like a hotel. That's why, kind of going back to the base price thing, every unit is different. It's almost like having, if you have 10 properties you manage for 10 different owners, and it's almost like having a public company or a corporation where you have a bunch of different stakeholders that each have their own needs and their own wants and having to manage that. So that's kind of where we help come in and price every unit individually and not treat everything like everything in Mexico City is the same. We're not trying to do that. We know it's not like that. I can show you that in a second, but
exactly. Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Every owner is different, and therefore every property is different. Because some of these owners might even use their units, so you need to block those dates.
Exactly. And it should be treated as such. No two units should be treated as the same. Even if they're in the same building, one has a different view and one's on the floor that's closer to the exit and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different factors that go into play, and that's why we try and work with you to come up with the best core value for each home. Also, too, last thing is we have single-click manual overrides. So this is just an easy way that if you are on the phone with someone and you give them a discount on the phone or something like that, you can just come right in here into Beyond Pricing, easily just click and override that day, and it just pushes out directly to the channel or connected channels that it's connected to. So
nice. Yeah, that's very important because a lot of times we're taking phone calls and we're trying to take notes. Whereas you can easily just log into the system, do the reservation right there and then, or block the dates, or drop the rates, and secure that booking right away.
Exactly. And let me show it to you live, actually, how it works right here. So this is just a unit, or which one? I had a couple pulled up here. This is just a unit right in the center of Mexico City. Very nice unit. and just putting this into our preview tool right here, which is basically a preview of how your Beyond Pricing dashboard would look. So you would have a dashboard like this for every single property.
Let me ask you something. How often is is Beyond Pricing communicating with, say, Airbnb? Like, it's every couple of hours, every 45 minutes? How does it work in terms of pushing out the prices and calendars?
Yep. So we're tracking the entire occupancy and pricing data for, all of these different markets that we're in every single day. So we usually push our prices and pull the occupancy data once per day around midnight Pacific time every day, every 24 hours. That being said, though, if you were in that situation like we brought up, like you were on the phone or something like that with someone, you can easily go into your Beyond Pricing dashboard and just say sync prices. There's a button on the dashboard, and that will just sync it right away right there. So if you wanted to do it more frequently, you can, but it usually does it once per day. Especially
during those holiday dates, right? The Christmas week and New Year's Eve, obviously.
Correct, yeah. So this is what's the calendar view. So basically you would come in here and it's just almost like your Airbnb calendar. It shows what each price of the day would be. This person's pretty booked out, but let's say for March of next year, if they had a base price of, let's just say 500, this would show us where each day of the week price is coming from. So we have a base price of 500 here. And then seasonality, March is a big season to go to Mexico City. It's great weather at that time. So we would say add 69 for seasonality factor. And then since this is a Saturday night, we're going to go ahead and add another 105, coming to the grand total of 674 pesos for this unit for this day. So this is where you can come and see what every price is. And like I said, you can do an easy manual override right here. If I wanted to change this to say 1,000, come right in here, do that. And then once your account is connected, there'll be a button here that says sync prices. And boom, it just pushes like that.
I like the interface. It's very user-friendly, very, very user-friendly.
Yeah, we try and make it as simple as possible, and more importantly, as transparent as possible. We, with the pricing, everyone wants to know why each price is the way it is. So we want to show you why we priced each day. In this unit, a lot of the days are booked out, but let's say that for this unit, we never also wanted to go below, let's say like 450 right here. No matter what the algorithm does, even in the lowest seasons right here, it will never go below 450 if that's what you set it to. And we can see the same thing here on this chart view. So let me take away this predicted price really quick. So this is the current pricing of this unit on Airbnb. So obviously where it goes to 0 here, those are days where it's blocked off or there's a guest staying there already. But it looks like for Christmas and New Year's, they have it at about 1,250 pesos. And then after the holiday season, it goes down to about March. So for the rest of the year, about 1,000 pesos a night. So this is kind of what I was saying. And I think, Alex, you brought this up earlier, in that it's very important to have more than 1 to 2 rates a year. Demand changes every single day. And if you have 1 rate a year like this, and you don't think that in the middle of March, the demand is different from the middle of August, you're wrong, and you're most likely leaving money on the table there.
That's right. Well, that's one of the biggest challenges, to try to make hosts understand that they have to have a pricing strategy. They have to have a pricing tool like this, so they at least know what the road looks like ahead of them. Otherwise they're going to be blindfolded and they're going to be walking like zombies in the market. That's literally the analogy that I can come up with.
Yeah, and it's important too to know that it's not as simple as just going and looking at your competitors and what your competitors are priced around you, because how do you know that they know what they're doing? You don't know if the analogy we use is, you don't want to be copying off of a C student, right? You don't want to be copying off of someone that maybe is just doing average, or not even how do you know their homes even are booking? So it's important to be looking at the market as a whole and market occupancy fluctuations to see what's going on. So it's very important to know your market, know the season, know how long people are staying, their booking lead times, and that's going to help you with your pricing strategy, not just something as simple as looking at your.
Exactly. And just to add to your comment, it's very common right now in Mexico City, and it's sort of a reaction out of fear when they stop getting bookings because they don't know what's ahead. They don't know what next week is going to look like. They instinctively drop their prices so low, they don't even know they're making money, and everybody else follows. So this becomes a price war, and nobody's making money.
Yeah. And all that becomes is just a race to the bottom of who can go lowest, right?
Exactly.
And, at that point, the owners are not winning. It's not profitable for anyone. So you do have to know that there are some times, yes, where demand is going to be lower. Maybe right after New Year's, people aren't likely to take a vacation or, go spend a weekend in Mexico City the weekend after New Year's because they were just partying all weekend, right?
It's got credit cards to pay.
Exactly. So, there's times like that where it does make sense to go a little bit lower to make sure that your house isn't sitting vacant. And, there are still going to be people looking, and it does make sense to go a little bit lower to match those people. Mm-hmm. But it's not always just the best price isn't just whoever has the lowest price. It's whoever has, like I said, the right price at the right time to match the demand that's going on.
They're literally jumping off the cliff and everybody's following.
Exactly. So let me show you kind of what, how we would price this unit, I guess. Mm-hmm. So here's our pricing, and these little peaks and valleys right here are the different changes in demand for the day of the week. So these valleys are mainly in the middle of the week where we're going a little bit lower to match that change in demand, like I talked about, and then a little bit higher than this person is going on the weekends because we are seeing spikes in demand. And then what we're seeing here is weekends that this person is leaving money on the table by not increasing their price for a local event that's happening.
Exactly.
Then this is what I was saying, in that the algorithm is picking up that a lot of people are staying in Mexico City right near this apartment for this given weekend. Now, Alex, you and I both know that this is, I believe, Easter weekend next year, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a spring break. That's how popular it is.
Exactly. And we all know this is a huge holiday. And if you are increasing for a huge holiday or a local event that happens every year in your area, that's just money that's easy money for you to be making with your short-term rental to make sure that you have. Yeah. And then again, right here, July and August, this is a great time to go to Mexico City. This is when a lot of tourists visit. This is when a lot of the travelers are in and people are coming in, right?
Yeah, and kids are out of school and they're coming to visit museums and whatnot.
Exactly. Visit the culture and different, sporting events, concerts are going on all the time. So this is what we see when that in the middle of the summer, you should be raising your price to adjust that peak in demand for that seasonality change, and then lowering it back down right when you said it, you nailed it on the head, right when the kids go back to school, people are kind of getting ready for the holidays. They already took their summer vacation. That's when we would go a little bit below this person. And like you said, Alex, it's okay to take a few bookings that are lower than what you normally get. That doesn't mean that you're doing a bad job or that you're losing money. If you're getting bookings during the low season where everyone else is sitting vacant, you're still the winner in that scenario, even if you're taking them a little bit below.
That's the difference between a seasoned host and a beginner host. When they know how to make money in the off season, right there, it's when I see it, when people they're not visiting Mexico City because they've got tuition to pay and they've got school supplies to pay, so demand drops, and obviously, but you still have the information and the right data to adjust your price and still make money while everybody else is sitting empty. Very, very important, very, very powerful tool for every Airbnb host.
And the best way to know what's going on in your market is by using a tool. Beyond Pricing has all of the market data in each market. We use all of the different main systems and OTAs in order to get our data and information, mainly Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, Expedia, and we're pulling all of the occupancy data for the neighborhood around this apartment. In this case, it was right in the middle of the city, as we saw.
Yep.
So this is what we're seeing. So, you know, there's other tools that do this. We just do it in conjunction with pricing. So we give you the market data. You know, there's, you know, your AirDNA, your key data dashboard. There's a couple different ones that are doing this, but what we do is we apply this market data that we're seeing and we automatically feed it to your pricing. So
exactly.
If it's a little
fully automated.
Yeah, and if you're a little bit newer and it's a little bit harder to understand why each thing happens, this is a good thing to look at and say, okay, because of this change in demand, I see now on my calendar why the price reflects the way it does. So, and the way I can prove it to you, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be people listening that are like, oh, I don't think this is right. There's no way. I mean, the way I can prove it is just pulling up an average occupancy line. And during times of the year where we're going well above the average occupancy, and then during times where we're going below the average occupancy, those are our low seasons. So that's how I can see the shoulder seasons, which are right below the low, or right in between the low and your high seasons. And then we have the highs and the lows. So obviously right around the holidays, you know, late November and December, a lot of people coming to Mexico City to see their families, to see friends. You know, they're saying for the holidays, that's a very high season through New Year's. And then we have a little bit of a shoulder, a little bit of a low and a shoulder right here during February, March, and April. And then right as summer comes around, we're going higher. And then right at the end of July and September, that's where we're going very low. So as someone that knows nothing about this market, I could come right in here and probably tell you the general trends to this neighborhood pretty accurately.
Yeah, and very easy to read as well, because it doesn't require much interpretation as opposed to other pieces of software where they just give you the average occupancy rate and that's it, and you have to figure out the rest. This is very user-friendly. You can read it. It doesn't require a master's degree or anything like that. It's very intuitive, and I like that. I like that a lot.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. And a way that you can see, you know, how we're picking up local events would be to come down here and look at this graph. So we were looking at before neighborhood occupancy. So again, the neighborhood around this apartment for last year is what we're seeing right here. And then this graph below it is just a continuation, and this is forward looking from today. So here's, you know, we have today right here, or that's actually tomorrow. And then we have these huge peaks. So we have our normal booking curve. And what that means is a booking curve is obviously for the days that are closer and we have people that have booked last minute and stuff, we're going to have a higher occupancy. And then as time goes on, the occupancy gets a little bit lower in the market. And that's totally normal.
Yep.
These big anomalies or these big spikes right here, these are where there are local events happening in the area that are causing changes in demand and increases in demand, which we're going to automatically reflect on your prices. So I think right here in the beginning of November, Dia de los Muertos, right?
Right. So it's it's the biggest event in Mexico City. Huge parade, and people from all around the world come to see that.
Exactly. So if you were living under a rock and you didn't know that this event was happening in Mexico City and you had no idea, Beyond Pricing would be able to capture this occupancy data, and we would be able to automatically see through our algorithm that there's something going on that we need to raise your prices for, and we'll raise your price exactly to meet that demand, because that's also important in that you know, for Dia de los Muertos, how much you know that you need to increase your prices, but how do you know to increase 20% or 50%? You don't really know.
Yeah.
With this, we're increasing to exactly meet the changes in demand each day. So say there's a sporting event going on. I don't know, like Mexico is in the World Cup or something like that. Or Formula One, something like that, where a sports game happens kind of out of nowhere. Maybe they make the gold medal game, and they're actually going to do it in Mexico City. And there's this huge change in demand for 1 week away. And, everyone is proactively trying to book everything. you're going to be that first person that once we see that slight change in demand, even like a 1% increase, 2%, that's still significant, we're going to be raising your prices, and you won't have to worry about taking a low booking on that high booking weekend. So,
yeah.
And then there's a few other tools right here. You know, you have your neighborhood pricing. So you have the average price for a one Airbnb bedroom in this neighborhood, average price on HomeAway, which is VRBO. And then we have hotel pricing. And we're not really using hotel pricing in our data. We're mainly just using it to just kind of confirm our hunches and see the general trends and seasonality that we're looking at. Vacation rentals are a whole different beast than hotels, but it's good to have that on here for property managers and owners to look at.
Yeah, but it's very helpful to actually have it separated, because obviously they're hurting. They're getting 20 to 30% less in bookings than this year and last year because of Airbnb. And obviously you can see the difference in prices, and that's probably why a lot of new travelers are choosing vacation rentals over hotel rooms. So, but it's very helpful to have that graph at least to compare occupancy. Now, let me ask you this. What do you tell the average the average potential client that doesn't believe in this entire market data because it looks too complex? You're saying that you can guarantee anywhere from 20 to 40% more bookings. Is there anything like that? Any type of assurance that you can give to the average Airbnb host?
Yeah. So we don't guarantee anything. If someone's ever trying to sell you something and they're guaranteeing you something, they're probably trying to scam you. But
correct.
I will say though that we work with thousands of individual property managers that have 1 through 5 listings. On top of that, we work with about 300 large property management companies that have over 20 listings. And throughout that group, we're seeing an average revenue increase year over year of 18%. And the reason for that is the way we calculate that is we look at comparable units year over year, apples to apples is what we call it. So obviously, if Alex has 10 units and then he starts with Beyond Pricing, and at the end of the next year he has 40 units, well, yes, of course he made more revenue. And it's a hard way. We can't really judge that as our measure of success. But what we can do is I can say, all right, Alex, let's take those 10 units that you already had for over a year. Let's see what occupancy you had a year ago today, what prices you were getting booked at a year ago today.
Yep.
And then let's look at using Beyond Pricing. Let's look at the occupancy and rates that you're getting booked at here. And so we're only comparing comparable units, and that's how we see our measure of success. As of right now, we don't find it the best to just measure, oh, you made more money than you did last year. Well, you grew your portfolio. So, the measures are a little bit skewed. Yeah. And this is just a random listing I pulled off of Airbnb. So I don't have the historical data, but I did pull up for one of our other clients here. This is a screenshot. Oops, excuse me. This is a screenshot of what kind of stats you would see for your portfolio in Beyond Pricing. So we have this on an individual listing view as well as a portfolio-wide view, but you can see your most recent bookings that you've taken, the top Beyond Pricing bookings, what occupancy rates you had. Now, this is a newer user. He's only listed these this summer, so we don't have that much historical data, but this is where we would come in and be able to see your occupancy and your average daily rate, which is the average rate that you get throughout a given month for each year over year. And then there's a bunch of different stats on here. Every property manager has their own measures of success for how well they do. Correct. So this is where they can come in here and see all the different stats. One that kind of got cut off that I did want to touch on was average booking lead time. So property managers, especially newer ones, should be tracking this very much, because marketing and pricing are two sides of the same coin, right? You can have the best price, Alex, you know this, you can have the best price, but if you're not doing any marketing and no one can see the listing, it doesn't really matter, right? That's right.
That's right. And you need to know how much time you have in order to do that too.
That's true as well. So one of the things that we do track is what's called average booking lead time. And that shows you every month how far out in advance people are booking. So let's say for the month of October, right? It's Formula One in Mexico City. People book this out, 6 months to a year in advance. So this would be helpful for a property manager to say, people on average book this property 1 year in advance for that weekend of Formula One.
Yep.
How I know that I need to be doing my marketing for the next year a year in advance. So if I'm going to be doing any kind of Google ads or Facebook ads or flyers or anything like that, I need to be doing it a year in advance.
That's right. Yeah.
And
no, it definitely becomes part of your marketing strategy, thanks to the data that you're getting and how soon you need to start advertising for next year, especially for this type of events. It's very, very helpful, because then if you're able to book for that particular week, then you don't have to worry about 52 weeks of the year. You just have to worry about the rest of the year and not that particular week. So it becomes, it's very, very helpful. I do this a lot with my own properties, which is, the reason why I wanted you to be able to show this to our audience, so that they can get educated and start doing this and start thinking about their business in the long term, in a year from now, in 2 years from now, in 5 years from now. So, especially with when you get so much data and it takes a little bit of a learning curve to understand, but this is automated. So you don't have to worry so much about it. You just kind of have to go with the flow and learn. And after a month or after 2 months or after a year of a business cycle, you can actually predict and feel more comfortable with this type of system, because it's just taking you up and down and it's maximizing profit.
Exactly. And what's going to happen is looking at stats like this is going to get you thinking about, or get other property managers thinking about even more advanced statistics that they can look at on their homes, where the home is showing up and the price, how that is affecting it, where the home is ranked, what platforms are getting most bookings and what percent of your bookings coming from, and what marketing should you be doing? Is it better to do it on Facebook, or is it better for you to just have it posted on Airbnb?
Exactly.
Stuff like that.
This type of report too, Trevor, is very important to sit down with your owner and explain what's going to happen and what you're going to be doing in a month from now, in 2 months from now, in 3 months from now, and they understand what you're doing, as opposed to calling him on the phone and saying, I'm going to drop the price 25%. He's like, what?
Exactly. And it's for when that owner calls you up and is like, hey, Alex, why is New Year's still available? Well, it's October. And you can just come right in here and send them the screenshot and say, actually, for your property, we actually see an average booking lead time for Christmas of about 30 days.
Yeah.
So I don't think now is the right time to drop the price. Let's hang tight. Let's stick to our guns. And I know that this is going to get booked. And if December comes around, it's still locked booked, then we can talk about discounting. But right now, from the data that I'm seeing and the data that's backing this up, this is the best move for us right now. And just confirming those hunches, because at the end of the day, owner relationships for any large property manager are the most important thing, I would say, as far as if your business is going to sink or swim. So having data that can back up what you're saying with owners, and then kind of on the flip side of that, being able to use data to acquire new owners. So let me kind of show you how.
You look like you know what you're doing with all this data.
Of course, exactly. And then on top of that as well, we have a tab here in Beyond Pricing called Nearby Listings. And what that is it shows you on Airbnb, HomeAway, and Booking.com what surrounding listings in the area are priced at and how occupied they are in the next 30, 90 days. So, for this listing, it looks like it's a couple blocks away from the home that we're looking at, but he has, for the next 30 days, 60% booked out and 28% booked out over the next 90 days. So we give that a health score of 93. And what that means is he's not underbooked, but he's also not overbooked, because, a common myth that a lot of new property managers believe in is that your ideal occupancy should be 100%. That is actually, that means that you underpriced and you left money on the table if your occupancy is 100%.
That means that you're booking it for 1 or 2 or 3 months at a time, and you're not making real money. You're just negotiating a base price for someone that might be renting it in advance, but you could make 25, 30% more if you rent it this way.
Exactly. And knowing that there's an optimal point between if it's too booked up, that means you're leaving money on the table and your price is too low. And if it's not booked up enough, that means your price is too high, finding that sweet spot. So this is an easy way that you can come in here and you can easily see what base price other units have, how occupied they are, and then just pull this listing right up on Airbnb and be like, okay, this listing is a little bit nicer than my unit, so maybe I should go a little below, or I think my unit's a little bit nicer, I could probably go a little bit higher than this guy even.
Exactly.
But to the point that I was talking about bringing on new owners is you can use Beyond Pricing actually to come in here and look at what is going on around you and approach those owners and say, hey, I saw that you're listing your home on Airbnb, but it doesn't look like you have a lot of people that are staying there over the next 30 and 90 days. Have you ever considered using a professional property manager like myself to manage a home for you?
Yeah, super important and super powerful tool for property managers like us, so we can actually see what other people are doing, what they're doing wrong, and just approach them and help them manage their listing professionally. But you're right. I mean, and it gives you so much data. You could use it for so many different reasons. One of them being approaching and helping other people do it professionally, like you're saying. Yeah. Exactly.
And it's a great way to. It's a lot easier than trying to approach someone that isn't even renting out their home. And first off, convincing them that it's valuable to them to rent out their home on Airbnb as a short-term rental. And then also on top of that, convincing them to rent it out with you, right? Versus taking someone that already is on Airbnb, pulling up their listing, messaging them and saying, hey, I think this would be a great fit for us if we were to work together, and let me manage your home for you. Let me show you how good I'm doing on my stats with my other properties and how I can do this for your property as well.
Exactly. No, very, very important for property managers to be using this tool. That's why I see a lot of potential for you guys down here in Latin America, Mexico City being one of the top markets. But it doesn't stop there. Rio in Brazil it's a huge market. Argentina, Buenos Aires as well. We're going to be touring the rest of Latin America in 2020. And that's why it's very important for us to start talking and getting our audience to get to know this tool so they can feel more comfortable and start trusting the data as well. Because sometimes they fear what they don't know. And looking at graphs sometimes can be scary, and it just takes a little bit of time or a professional to do the work for you with the data show, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Our platform is designed for it to be as easy and simple as possible for you to get the stats that you need about your market and learn your market and price effectively and maximize revenue in your market with as little work as possible. So that's the main thing that we're trying to do here. Alex, I know you wanted me to show you another one in the infamous Mexico City neighborhood of La Condesa. So I have another one pulled up here as well.
All right.
And I have two actually. I wanted to show, I'm not sure which one it is, but I wanted to show, I know there was one that someone had already started doing a little bit of price fluctuations. Yeah, it is this one. So this is one right in the neighborhood. This is a very nice listing. Beautiful, it looks like they have a nice little deck.
Professionally
like that.
decorated. So, yes.
Exactly. So taking away our pricing here, this is someone that it looks like is trying to do dynamic pricing in a way, but there's still a few things that they're leaving out. So this is great. I see these changes from 2,300 pesos to about 2,500 for the weekends. They have their, this is where you have.
Would you say they're using Airbnb's dynamic pricing? It looks like, right?
It could be. I don't know for sure. It does look very, very similar. Yes. But I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But most likely they are. And this is what it looks like. So, there have some changes going on here. And then it looks like in the summer, they're doing these same changes, but then instead they're going to 3,200 a night, then back down to 2,300. And while this is a good strategy to be changing the days of the week and pricing them differently, there's no accounting right here for seasonality and how, you know, it's awesome that they raised a little bit more in the summertime, but, you know, the beginning of April has a very different demand than the beginning of June. So yes, it is good to be doing small price changes for day of the week, but you also have to be taking into account other factors that are happening in the market, going back to what I was saying for each neighborhood. I know, I mean, Alex, I've never been there. Maybe you have. I know that there's not the same amount of people there in the second weekend of January that there are in the end of June, right?
Totally. Very different. Very, very, very different.
Exactly. And so while it, you know, it's good to have a pricing strategy like this, that there are changes being made, there's a lot of other things to account for. So look at how much fluctuation our pricing has for the changes in seasonality throughout the year versus this one right here. So this is what I was saying, in that there's multiple factors and multiple layers that need to go into your dynamic pricing strategy as a short-term rental property manager or owner. Looking at it here, you know, it looks like for the neighborhood around this listing versus the one we were at, it looks like across the board, occupancy is higher in this neighborhood. This is a more desirable area for people to go and visit. Definitely. Another important factor for you to be looking at as an owner of a short-term rental property or a property manager, knowing your neighborhood within the city. You know, exactly. Alex, you have a lot of homes in Puerto Vallarta, correct?
That's right.
Exactly, that you manage, right? So, you know more than anyone that the homes that are right on the water need to be priced differently than the homes that are a block off the water or 3 blocks off the water.
On the mountain side, yes.
Exactly. And so do you price those differently? And do you see across the board, do you see different demand changes throughout the year than the ones that are on the beach?
This is a far more desirable neighborhood than even the historic center of Mexico City, even though it's very popular among tourists. But this is higher end. This is where most of the good restaurants are, coffee shops. It's a very safe neighborhood, super, super safe. It's pet friendly, well, and it's a little more hipster also. So it's very trendy and lots of good galleries too.
Totally, which makes sense, because for the other neighborhood we were seeing that Dia de los Muertos had a higher demand than Formula One did. But here in this neighborhood, it looks like Formula One has a higher demand. And it goes to what you just said, Alex, in that the people that are coming and staying in this neighborhood or coming to Formula One are more likely to be staying in this neighborhood. So
that's right.
For a short-term rental owner, it's important for you to know the changes within the neighborhoods that your homes are in, and how each neighborhood within a certain market, yes, it'll follow the same general seasonality trends, but there's different demand in each neighborhood. And that's very important to know your market. I can't say it enough. Know your market.
Yeah, no, definitely. And knowing and being able to predict those events can allow you to create opportunities to capitalize on those events as well, outside of your Airbnb, where you can offer experiences or tours or any other type of side business that will be created within the time frame that you're adjusting your price rates, knowing what's going to happen in a week from now, in 2 weeks from now, in 3 weeks from now, because then you can plan. You can call concierge. You can call the restaurant across the street, maybe set up a little gathering or welcome party for your guests. So when you plan, when you get in the habit of planning and anticipating and predicting your events, you can generate a lot more money, as you're saying.
Exactly. And it's very important as well to know not only the recurring events that happen, that happens every year, but it's also good to just be checking for the one-time events. I remember we had up in Oregon in the United States this year, or last year, I believe, there was a solar eclipse. Very much a one-time event that happens every 100 years or so. And so we were seeing this huge spike in demand in the market, and we didn't know what was causing it. And we were looking online if there was any concerts or anything. And then finally someone told us over the phone, they were like, oh, that's actually the solar eclipse.
Yeah.
And even though we didn't know, and most of the property managers in that area didn't know, and a lot of the hotels even were underbooked and had to give home and had to deny guests and have people rebook at higher rates because they didn't even pick up on the demand.
Exactly.
Beyond pricing, by looking at the demand that was changing daily and seeing more people booking up vacation rentals, we automatically, all of our customers had great pricing for that event and maximized the revenue for an event like that. So it's just making sure that even if you aren't seeing these recurring events, trying to just check every once in a while for local one-time events that are happening in the area that might cause people to come into the area is also very important as well.
Now, let me ask you something, Trevor. If I'm a co-host, and am I able to have access to this pricing tool? Can I integrate this pricing tool as a co-host with an Airbnb host? How does it work?
Yep. Yeah, so the co-host is able to use Beyond Pricing. You just hook up that Airbnb account that you use right into our software, and we can just push prices directly to there from the calendar view. Only thing that we do say is that if there's two co-hosts, they can't have the same listing with the same Airbnb account connected to Beyond Pricing.
Correct.
Because and that happened, then we'd be, it'd be messing up and we'd be pushing two different rates. So that's the only thing. But yes, to answer your question. Okay.
All right. Interesting. Trying to see if we covered all of our questions. Any pros and cons that you can come up with by using a pricing tool like this? I mean, we've pretty much covered everything throughout our conversation, but I just want to know if we left any pros and cons that we didn't touch on.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes, the pros, just to keep it simple, just maximizing revenue for what you can, controlling what you can, saving yourself time manually having to go and do research and changing rates and updating and gap filling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I truly can't think of any cons to using this. I would say you may spend more time than you did before on pricing. Some people, not saying that you have to, but of course, this is not a set it and forget it tool. You're going to have to come in here and be looking at the changes in occupancy in the market. It's a human and a computer element. So I guess a con would be if you're looking for something that's a set it and forget it tool, it's not really something that you can just set up once. If you come in here and, you set a base price that you think you can get a price on, and then you get no bookings, you're going to have to come in here and adjust that base price and check on that base price. So that's kind of what I was thinking as a con. If that answers your question.
Let me ask you this. When it comes to search engine optimization on Airbnb's side of the business, because obviously you have to change a number of things, does the change or this dynamic pricing or this different pricing strategy that Beyond Pricing pushes into Airbnb, does that count towards search engine optimization? In other words, does Airbnb pick up on the changes that Beyond Pricing is making or not?
Just to clarify, when you're saying search engine optimization, you're talking about the rankings on Airbnb, right? Like when someone searches where the home comes up, like what page?
Yep.
Gotcha. So this actually does in a way that there's a lot of different factors that Airbnb has as far as their ranking system, right? The core that the pricing comes down to it is that if there's a property that is getting booked a lot, you're getting a ton of bookings on, that booking is going to start showing up higher in SEO on Airbnb.
Because they can make more money. Yeah.
Because that unit is making Airbnb more money than, say, the unit that we were looking at earlier that's just sitting vacant. That's going to be on page 10 because that's not making them any money. So what you can do is you can come up with a pricing strategy. Like maybe you see what the market is priced at and you price yourself just a little bit below so that you're taking a ton of bookings on the homes, maybe say on a new property that has no reviews, right? You want to get a bunch of reviews on it. So let's price it a little bit below the market for what it's valued at.
$10, $15 less?
I'm sorry?
$10, $15 less than the average daily rate?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Just, maybe 5 to 10% under what the market is doing. And that way it's going to get more bookings because it's a little bit cheaper. It's by getting more bookings, it's going to show up higher in the SEO. And then what's going to happen is you're going to accumulate reviews, and that listing is going to be frequently on the first page, which then allows you to magically do what? Raise the price, make more money on it. So
exactly.
Definitely helps in SEO. You just have to be strategic about it, and something that's definitely not hard to learn either. Yeah.
No, well, I think we've covered everything. Did we forget anything out of the questions that we had? Because I think we pretty much covered. We covered 2 examples. We covered connectivity. We covered pricing strategy. We covered supply and demand as well. The co-host model with Airbnb. I don't know if we left anything to talk about.
Yep. I don't think so either. I did just want to say, though, a question that we frequently get over here is, why should I not use Airbnb's smart pricing tool? It seems like, Airbnb has their own tool that does that, or, I think VRBO just released Market Maker, which is another similar tool that does what we do. Like, why should we use a third party rather than someone that's on the channel? And, this frequently comes up, and the answer is that on the different channels, their goal is to get a booking on their channel, right? And so oftentimes what we have seen other users do on those channels is when they use the tools that are available to them as far as pricing, prices tend to be a little bit lower than people suggest. And I think, Alex, a lot of your listeners have probably experienced this firsthand.
Oh, yeah.
And so the benefit of using a third-party tool like us is coming back, I guess, to what we were talking about earlier, is we're not just going to be racing to the bottom with everyone else in the area to try and compete for those bookings and make sure we get them for you on one platform or another. Our goal, since the way that we are priced is we take 1% of bookings, our incentives are aligned in that if you're doing better, we're doing better. If you're making more money, we're making more money. So that's kind of where it breaks down. That was pretty much all I had, though, unless you had any other questions for me.
No. Thank you very much for making that clear. It's very important to get that message out, obviously, because we've received a lot of complaints about Airbnb's dynamic pricing tool. VRBO's pricing tool, people are really not paying too much attention to it. But
it's very new.
Yeah, but now that you're mentioning that, and you're also showing it with the data too, because you're comparing one to the other. That last example we saw with the La Condesa condo, when it's going up and down, it looked to me like they're using Airbnb's pricing strategy, and then when you compare it against yours, you can really see the difference in how much people can really make if they use Beyond Pricing. So, Trevor, thank you very, very much for this presentation.
Of course.
We're going to translate it to Spanish, make sure our audience sees it, and to start asking questions. And we'll be seeing you in New Orleans this next Sunday.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm excited to have some great Cajun food and meet you guys in person. It's going to be very exciting.
Well, thank you very much, Trevor. And also, if you can, go ahead and send me a link to your personal contact info, or whoever could be responding to emails from potential customers. And once again, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to doing business with you.
Sounds good, Alex. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me on. Thanks again. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you.
All right. You have a good rest of your day now. Bye.
Bye-bye.